Well, welcome. Thanks for staying tuned. Good evening to you. Still Hard Factor 91.3 Nigeria. Info in here Port Harcourt. I'm Dio. 10 minutes going past 5 p.m. Conversation does continue at this time. And nationally speaking, one of the most contentious issues at the moment, or one of the most discussed matters at the moment, is the PIB, which is generating a lot of controversy. For years it has. We are what appears to be at the cusp of resolving all the matters regarding the PIB, which has been said to be a major instrument that will resolve the several issues that have beleaguered a national oil and gas industry. However, some of the issues or the dust being raised right now is suggesting, might it be the solution, or are we just simply creating new problems that we may have to contend with in the, immediately, in the near future and or distant future as well? And just as well, River State, as with other states here in the Niger Delta and the south region of the country, play host to a big part, if not a big chunk of the oil and gas industry in the country. And as such, one must be concerned as to happenings in those parts of the country, especially here in River State. So joining me in the studio to discuss the oil and gas industry, how it's affected especially the Niger Delta region, more especially River State, and happenings in the National Assembly and the country at large as regards the passage of the PIB. I've got joining me in the studio the River State's Commissioner for Energy and Natural Resources, Dr. Peter Medee. Commissioner, good evening to you. You're welcome to Hard Facts.
Good evening, Dio. Thanks for having me.
Let's start from a national matter, and then we'll bring it down to the home scene, specifically here in River State. Okay. The PIB, it appears that we are close to finally resolving that matter and closing that chapter more or less, and moving on and enjoying the benefits that should accrue not just to the nation as a whole, because some of the policies or recommendations in the PIB have to do with the management of the oil and gas industry, will affect the entire country. But even more so, beyond that, will have even far-reaching consequences for those in the Niger Delta as well. However, it appears that rather than leading to some kind of a resolution and the solutions to the problems that we have agitated for long periods and long years, it appears that we're not hitting that resolution with all the dust and controversies being raised. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, thank you, Diane. It's absolutely very, very unfortunate that we find ourselves in the kind of circumstances ordinarily we will envisage at this very, very critical time. Because the PIB ordinarily would have been a very, very welcome development that would have been celebrated, that at last the 9th National Assembly have been able to pass it. But what has come out didn't show any serious commitment by the legislatures to be able to listen to the yearnings of the people that are so concerned. In fact, I can tell you categorically, Dario, that what is being passed is like what was garbage in to them is what is garbage out now to us. Why did I say so? I followed through the processes of the public hearing. I was part of the team that represented River State, and I did the presentation on behalf of River State at the National Assembly. Before then, we were able to set up a crack team, technically, that did appropriate review of the PIB. And we came out with a position, not just the position of River State. I was also able to coordinate all the Commissioner for Energy in the 9 oil-producing states. I coordinated all of them, and we were able to come out with common front and common position. Unfortunately, what came out did not show representation, did not show any concern, as if a public hearing ever had and that presentation was ever made. For example, 2.5% was proposed. all through the public hearing, 10% was requested. Because even the 10% was what the previous version of the PIB has before now presented and offered. So we thought we weren't asking for too much. Unfortunately, they came out with 3%, meaning that it's 0.5% that was given to us. Because 2.5 was already offered. And we asked for 10. At the end of the day, what came out is 0.5 addition to 2.5 to give us 3%. Now, when you look at that, it's even more annoying to say 3% of what? 3% of what? Is it 3% of equity participation or 3% of profit? Now, let's take the equity participation. If we are looking at equity participation, who is in control of the structure of what they call the SECLOC, which looks like a trust fund that is expected to manage that 3%? Who appoint board members? Who is in charge of the administration? Who oversees it? It is still the oil companies. So you can see that's a greater slap to the host communities. But even the host community does not have a right to nominate those who represent them on that board. So you can see how disastrous what is said to be passed is to us. Besides that, we also have what they call the pipeline security thing, where if there is a rupture on the pipeline and it is considered to be sabotage, then the cost of fixing it and repairing it will be deducted from this same 3%, meaning that the host community will now pay for that whole exercise. Now the question is, who is in control of the security apparatus in the country? Is it the host communities? The host community appoint IG, appoint CP, appoint commanders of all the armed forces? Who does that? The same people. Now they fail to secure the pipeline and they ask the host community to pay for it. You look at that. You also look at what they call the host community in the bill. They are now looking at host community not just in terms of oil-bearing communities, but rather pipeline communities. So if a pipeline passes your community, then you're a host community. That wouldn't have been a problem. But come to look at it, it means that the pipeline from Port Harcourt to Kaduna, can you see the number of communities it passes? So by this bill now, all those communities are now host communities. They are all host communities. And they are all to benefit from this 3%. So you can look at that. Then by the time this 3% is collected, and then we share to all these communities, which one will come to my own community? Which one will come to my state? These are trouble we're beginning to face in terms of this bill.
Let's start with from the very last point that you raised as regards to concerns about the bill. Yes, maybe the oil, or definitely the oil, is being drilled from specific communities, and you have the oil majors or even indigenous firms setting up structures, infrastructure in those communities. I believe readily or immediately, or those are the communities we refer to as host communities. But then again, like you also identified, you have pipelines crisscrossing the country, and even in some cases where you have these spills, where you have whether it's due to some structural defect or it's as a result of sabotage, the people who live in those communities, in parts of Lagos, for example, we've had incidents like that happen, and some other parts of the country as well. And these people also suffer the effects and impact. As a matter of fact, there have been some really tragic occurrences in Lagos, for example, where people have been said to have died in scores and property destroyed. Are you saying those persons who obviously are also experiencing the impact of having this infrastructure pass through their communities, even though the major structures or superstructures may not be located there, are you saying that they shouldn't be covered as well, even though they suffer the impact of those pipelines crossing through their communities?
Well, if you listen to me very well, my concern is marginal rate. At what rate do they suffer? You are very conversant with the circumstances and the situation in the Niger Delta. Can you compare that to what's happening up north or up west of this country in terms of devastation? You can compare it. So relatively, you can see that this bill does not have any benefit for our people. And I'm happy we did our presentation. I'm happy we provided that leadership. I'm happy we provided that voice. Unfortunately, that voice was not heard.
Well, there are many things, pardon me, there are many things that the Niger Delta states get that other states do not get and cannot get, whatever it is that's in the PIB. For example, we got a 13% derivation,
yes,
which cannot go to Kaduna State,
yes,
which cannot go to any other such state. We've got the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs. You know, we've got the NGDC. Well, even though we're not having such commissions being replicated elsewhere, but we have the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs. We don't have the Ministry of Southwest Affairs or North Central Affairs, and other such things as well. We have the oil majors. They have GMOU agreements with the various communities. They don't have, very likely, they don't have such agreements with communities in other parts of the country. So there are other things that come to the Niger Delta, oil producing states, that they don't go to other states already.
Well, Dayo, that's even more annoying. If you watch me, the more you were making this analysis, I was getting more furious. Let's take the NDDC, for example. We talk about the NDDC. Who appoint board members of the NDDC? Who? Is it nominated by Niger Delta states or nominated by host communities? They are appointed from Abuja. And he who dictates the piper dictates the tune. You understand that? So the MD of NDDC is loyal to who? Who are the people who get the best contract in NDDC? Who are the people? Who are the people that are abandoning their projects and contract in NDDC? Now you talk about the Ministry of Niger Delta. Look at the East-West Road. What impact, what project can you hold on to that this is what we have seen from the Ministry of Niger Delta? Yes, the other day, the Northeast Commission came up. Go and see what has been thrown out in a few years. Now, the same people are controlling the NDDC. How many Northerners are on the NDDC board? How many Southerners are on the Northeast board? How many? So if you look at all this, it is even more annoying. You are talking of 13%. 13% of what? Look at River State. You agree with me today that the governor of River State is working 13%. Assuming it was 50%, do you know how many of the projects we have today in River State? I can tell you, for the past 60 days, we've been on the road flagging up and commissioning project. Where is the money coming from? Even before this 13% comes, the governor already tied into projects with irrevocable standing payment orders. Monthly. So hold on. Let me get it very clearer.
All right.
Now, if with 13% we are doing this, assuming it was 50%, let me ask you, what is the situation about solid mineral exploration in this country? How many percent? 50%. Now look at another very annoying angle of this bill. As they are giving us 50%.
Are you absolutely certain about that?
No, I'm just trying to say something.
No, are you absolutely certain about the 50% you just mentioned?
Well, I am very sure that reasonable percentage is what is being offered.
But not 50%.
I don't know, but it's not less than that.
So you just mentioned 50%.
But it's not less than that. It's a better deal where the people who owns the solid mineral are not crying the way we are crying, because they are benefiting better. Now look at the most annoying part of this bill. Why they are giving us 3%? They are giving themselves 30%. The 30% of the same profit will be set aside to go and source for oil somewhere that before my mother was born, they have been looking for oil and they have not found. That 30% will be taken there.
Pardon me, Commissioner.
Then 3%, 3% will be given to where the thing is coming from.
I must come in now. The 30% you talked about has to do with exploration, I believe. Am I right? Yes, or searching for where you might find oil in different parts of the country. Now, it doesn't state that the 30% of that amount is simply to search for oil in specific parts of the country. It's a search for oil anywhere in the country, including here in the Niger Delta region, where there are places where it is suspected there might be oil reserves, whether it's in the east, whether it's in the south, whether it's in the west, whether it's in the north.
Are you familiar with the oil searching process, the seismic activities? Already it has been known that there is oil in the Niger Delta. So they don't need 30% now for this frontier enclave in the Niger Delta. The 30% is for frontier enclave at the basin, the Chad basin, the Benus up north, where they are suspecting there may be oil, but they want to be sure whether it is there or not. Here, there is no suspicion that there is oil or not. There is already oil.
Is there suspicion that there is oil in other parts of the country besides the north?
Fine. There may be suspicion. Okay. Now let me ask you.
So will this fund cover attempts at trying to locate oil in those other parts of the country?
Some other part of the country.
Will it?
Where is the 30% of it coming from?
Will it? Will it cover trying to look for oil in other parts of the country as well?
That is what it is said to go for. But what we are saying is that when oil was discovered in Niger Delta, was money diverted from the traditional account?
We have to go I have to go for a commercial break right now. We've got the headlines shortly. Discussion continues afterwards. Please stay with us.
Information is a two-way thing. Nigeria Info, it's your turn. Let's talk.
Headline News, Nigeria Info on
92.3.
Headline News.
Hello, thanks for staying tuned. Here are the headlines. Gunmen abduct 8 people on Kula Abodima waterway in Rivers State. UPTH accused of professional negligence as newborn suffers leg fracture. Nigerian Air Force confirms crash of Alpha Jet aircraft in Zamfara State. Bandits kill police officers in Zamfara State. The foreign team death toll from Germany's worst floods reaches 165. In business, cost of livestock in Port Harcourt rises ahead of Eid al-Kabir celebration. In entertainment, Britney Spears' former bodyguard claims she was given cocktail of powerful drugs weekly. And in sports, Olympics committee under pressure to lift ban on hair cap for athletes with natural black hair. And those are the headlines. Details at 6. Contact our newsroom on 0818 90,017. Thanks for listening. I'm Adedayo Elusakin. Good evening.
Keeping up with political issues and developments around you, only on Nigeria Info.
And now, Hard Facts.
Hard Facts with Dio.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying tuned. Still Hard Facts at 90.3 Nigeria Info here in Port Harcourt. I'm Dio. 27 to go before 6 p.m. Still joined by my guest in the studio, Rivers State Commissioner for Energy and Natural Resources, Dr. Peter Medee. Commissioner, you're welcome once again.
Thank you.
We're discussing controversies surrounding the PIB, and hopefully we'll get to some other matters that affect Rivers State directly. Now, Commissioner, before the break, you mentioned that one of your concerns as regards some of the issues I raised a while ago vis-a-vis the Niger Delta gets 13% derivation. You mentioned that those states that have solid minerals are getting 50% or at least something in that region. But here's a story from the Daily Trust, and this was published September 12 last year, 2020. FG approves 13% derivation for revenue generated from mining. A brief part of that story. The federal government of Nigeria has approved 13% derivation to all the states of the federation for revenue generated through mining to encourage collection of mining tax in states. Minister of State Mines and Steel Development, Dr. Uchichukwu Samson Oga, disclosed this when he paid a courtesy visit to Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State during his tour of mining sites to interact with miners and communities. So it's that's a far cry from the 50% you mentioned a while ago. As a matter of fact, it's at par with what Niger Delta State, all producing states get, which is 13% as well.
Well, when was that visit carried out? Now, before that visit, what obtains? Did you find out what obtains before that visit? Did you find out what is being implemented today? That is just a message that was conveyed. But as we speak today, I can tell you that what obtains there is not what applies here. Okay. I can tell you that. Let's go and look at the Solid Mining Act, and then you will find out that whatever the minister is saying now is not what that is enacted, and that is just a policy statement that we cannot count on. Because whether you like it or not, no matter how tall the circular is, it's not as important as a law. What is it that the Niger Delta, the list the Niger Delta wants? You said the Niger Delta requested 10%. We asked for 10%. The National Assembly proposed 2.5%. But now we're reaching somewhere in the region of 3%. 3%. What is the minimum that we want to the Niger Delta? Well, we asked for 10%, and if we were given 5%, we would have been able to say, yes, it's considerate. Rather, it should have been a mixed course between 10 and 2.5 they offered. You would have been able to see a situation where there's a mid-course. The mid-course is 7%. If we have had 7%, then we would have been, we will see that, yes, the people are considered. But a situation where what was given to them is what they passed, then it is most unfortunate.
All right.
It's most unfortunate.
Let's come down to River State here. What are some of the steps being taken by your ministry? You're in charge of energy and natural resources over here. What innovations, what is your, or has your ministry been up to lately to improve the process, improve the industry here in the Niger Delta, and reap possibly some benefits for River State?
Thank you. Well, Dayo, I can tell you that we came into the ministry and inherited a ministry of energy that we ought to add value to. Unfortunately, the COVID came, and you know, everything we do in the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources is on the exclusive legislative list of government. What that means is that the state has very limited role to play in the oil industry. All we try to do is to monitor and possibly support whatever policies that are in place. And I can tell you, we have done that for more than a year now, and everybody can agree with us that in River State, we have never had fuel line or fuel scarcity or scarcity of product, be it petrol, be it diesel, be it gas in the state. It does not mean the crisis or problems does not exist. As I speak to you now, we are currently talking with the leadership of PTD, who is declaring a strike. And you know what that means. And this has always been on from one issue or the other. And we have managed the ministry. So today I can tell you, no matter the trouble that came in, no matter the challenges, today we're happy to tell you that we have held the ministry swayed to provide value for Rivers people in terms of what we call loss of man hour. You can imagine a situation where you go and queue for 4 hours, 5 hours before you can get product. We have solved that. Also, as I speak to you today, we have 17-kilometer pipeline containing about 50 million cubic feet of gas in River State. And we have ensured that the supply of this gas continue to those companies that are producing in the state. You talk about the Boa Sugar Factory, the Camp Flour Mill, the Power Brewery. We have ensured that the supply of gas to these private companies continues. Because if there's a shutdown, then you begin to hear that the Rivers people who are working in this outfit are laid off. Also, supply of this product are hindered, and that affects the GDP of the state and the economy of the state.
I'm sure
so we are doing that.
I'm sure.
Also,
go ahead.
Also, as we speak today, we have been able to get waiver for 15 modular refineries. We went to the National Council of Hydrocarbon, we presented memo, and we requested for waiver, and we were granted because we look at the level of retapism as well as the bottlenecks in securing approvals from federal government agencies to build these outfits. And so we made a case and we got that approval. We also made a case to get approval for feedstock. What is feedstock?
Let's talk about, we have limited time,
Yes.
so let's talk about the modular refineries.
Yes.
Now, is the River State government made this request and got the waiver for 15 modular refineries?
15.
So are these modular refineries going to be set up by the River State government?
Well, they are not going to be set up by the River State government because, you know, government is not always very good in business. But what we're looking at private investors. That's why we have opened the states. And as we speak to you, we're collecting expression of interest and as well as presentations from these private outfits that can build these modular refineries to be able to partner with the state government. The idea is, you know, at this stage, the state will not be able to do some of these preliminaries for these companies. We allow these companies to do their presentation, do their feasibilities, and then we'll be able to now set up a relationship, either with what we call build, own, and transfer, or build, own, and operate. all this relationship, we are looking at all of them. The idea is, government is not always very good in business. So the rule for private partnership is working with the ministry to see how we can set up these firms in Rivers State. The idea is that government will be able to provide those waiver and to these private individuals that we are sure of, and then these documentations will be done for them, and once it's done for them, this modular refineries will be able to come up.
Is there a timeline? Is there a timeline for when these modular refineries will become operational?
Well, the timeline depends on the seriousness of the private investors. Like as I speak to you, we are open, we are expecting, we are receiving presentations from them. So the more and serious they are, the better we'll be able to see their seriousness and translate.
How many such presentations have you received?
We've gotten few. We've gotten a lot, about 10 or 15 of them. But the idea is when they come, and we now let them understand that go back and do your feasibilities. By the time you do your feasibilities and come back to us, most of them are not coming back. We have very few now that are coming back to show that level of seriousness. So most of the things we hear, we want to invest, it's lip service.
What challenges are they expressing, those who are now returning?
Well, it could be funding. Maybe because the people we're expecting those that have technical abilities as well as funding capacity. Because funding is key. So, for example, for you to do your feasibilities, you need to pay like $50,000 to DPRO to get what we call license to established. And it is until you get the license to establish, you cannot be able to make progress to either get license to construct. You must get license to establish first. And these are what you need to do. And we are ready. DPRO and federal government has given us that waiver that if we come with Dayo today, they will be able to quickly process those documents. So instead of the document to stay 6 months, they can do it under 2 weeks and you will get it because there's a waiver on it. So that's it. Then another major area.
I apologize sincerely, Commissioner. We will have to wrap up the conversation on this note. My deepest apologies, but we do have something coming up at this time, and the news shortly as well. Maybe we'll have this some other time, and we can speak extensively just on the issue of the modular refineries.
I'll be glad.
Fantastic.
It is very, very interesting because I can tell you we are ready as a government to open the state into investment. We are looking at investing heavily in real estate, and we'll provide it.
We're all looking forward to that, I'm certain. Thanks for being a part of the conversation, especially my guest, Commissioner for Energy and Natural Resources here in Rivers State, Dr. Peter Medee. Commissioner, thanks for your time again.
Thank you, Dayo. Thank you, Rivers people. Thank you, Mr. Thank you for having me here.
Stick around. Got a commercial break coming up. The major news at 6 p.m. Hard Flash returns afterwards. Please stay tuned.